Hello, this is Brad Davis. This is beginning guitar lesson number 2. We'll pick up where we left off. There's a couple of more things I want to tell you about a difference between a flat top and a classical guitar. On a classical guitar, you'll notice there's no inlays on the fingerboard and there's no markers on the side of the neck to tell you where you are. So it's a little more difficult to find where your positioning is, and by sight, because you don't have anything to look at. And also your 12th fret is right where the neck meets the body, whereas on a flat top or electric guitar it's more out here. Now that's just something that you have to realize. If you're going to play a classical guitar, it's going to be a little harder to tell where your positioning is, and especially in the beginning. But what I want to do is get on to some of these other techniques that we didn't discuss in the first lesson, which is we showed you some chords, but what we didn't show you was the back of the guitar here, where I'm going to move over here and we're going to raise it up. In classical, they put their thumb majority of the time this position. It's acceptable to put it in this position, but they'll tell you never do it in this position, which is, they say, breaking the rules. I say, whose rules? Well, if Satriani and Van Halen had listened to people telling them, you're breaking the rules, then we wouldn't have the artistic talent that we had. So I believe that you should use everything that's available to you. I grew up watching a guitar player named Bugs Henderson, who I've seen him playing in a club and reach over and grab a Budweiser long neck bottle and play slide with it. When that wasn't available, he'd reach over and grab his mic stand and play slide with it. So I believe in using whatever you've got. So classical players use all 4 fingers, which there's a lot of famous rock guitar players that use only 3. I say, you got that little pinky, use it. I also believe that you should use thumb when able. Your hands may not be as big as mine, they may be bigger, but you can use it to your advantage in a way of using it as a bass line. So it can be used as such. Now on your right hand technique, classical players use thumb, index, middle, and ring finger. Well, there again, what do we have here floating around? Pinky. Well, flat pickers will use the pick and a lot of times these 2 fingers. Brad Davis, the other Grammy Award winning guitar player, is an excellent flat top picker. He uses a pick and these 2 fingers and does some really outrageous picking. And so it all depends on what you like. You can also use, a thumb pick, finger picks with it. I just say you kind of have to decide what fits you the best. Now, I'm in the minority on the way I use a pick in my fingers. I chose a long time ago, because I used to go watch lots of famous guitar players, and the one thing I noticed about all of them was, what did they do with their pick when they needed to finger pick? Well, if you were a classical guy, well, you didn't have a pick. And so a lot of the famous guitar players, I've seen them take it, put it in their mouth, take it and put it between their fingers like this and pick. I thought, well, one thing classical guitar teaches you is economy of motion. And so to me, that was a whole lot of wasted motion. So I said, well, I'm going to use a pick and these 3 fingers. It suits my style. I don't have to change my right hand position for whether I'm playing chords, strumming chords, playing a lead solo, or playing up more jazz oriented where I'm using my right hand to pluck with all the strings, or a classical motif where I'm using all my fingers. I'm using all of my fingers when I play it. So now I will tell you, it's very difficult to incorporate this pinky into your playing because it's one of the hardest fingers to coordinate with the rest of your hand, and that's the reason a lot of players haven't thought about it or haven't done it. But I've done it for 30 years, so it's just as natural for me to use it as a plucking type thing, or even if you're using it for a Eddie Van Halen style, I don't have to shift my pick. Now Eddie does it a little different. He holds his pick between his middle finger and his thumb and uses these fingers to play with. But that kind of leaves you at a disadvantage for finger picking. Now, it's like Joe Satriani. He bent his tremolo arm whammy bar on his electric so that when he brings it down, it comes across the harmonics of the strings, and he can just use the bar and hit it and get these wild effects with it. Is that cheating? No. It's what I call using everything you've got to your advantage. So that being said, you kind of need to decide on what kind of right hand technique you're going to use, and try to use all the fingers and your thumb. It makes it a whole lot easier. You can get in bass lines and different things that you otherwise would not be able to do. So that being said, let's pick up and add a couple of basic chords. And again, we're going to do a 1-4-5 progression, which all your blues and rock is made of. We'll go over a quick review of the G, C, and D. Well, you can Okay, well, that's your typical blues type or rock progression. Now we're going to add to it an A chord, and we're going to recycle the D chord because that's the 4 chord in this progression, and we're going to learn the E chord. Now, what you got to do is, this is the beginner's way to play the A chord. You want to take your first finger, put it on the 2nd fret of the 4th string, take your middle finger, put it on the 2nd fret of the 3rd string, and take your ring finger and put it on the 2nd fret of the 2nd string. Okay, now there's another way to play it, which I prefer, is by just taking my index finger and barring those 3 strings. And it doesn't matter that this E is mute because you have your other E up here. Now, the D chord is your 4 chord. Now we'll go to the E chord. Now, we go to the 5th string, 2nd fret with your middle finger. Go to the 4th string, 2nd fret with your ring finger. Go to the 3rd string, 1st fret with your index finger. So now we have go. That's another 1-4-5. Now, however, you don't have to start on 1 and go 4-5 all the time. You can do it as some famous rock songs have used and gone with your G, C, D chords this way. So there's a lot of ways to put those together. You can also go the same way with the chords we just learned. there's the next chords, and there's the next little bit of information. I don't want to overload you with too much information, but we'll get on into more things of scales, scales and modes and those type things to make your leads or melodies with, and we'll graduate on to the intermediate level and then more to the advanced level. But first, get these few things under your belt, and it will service you well, because if you can take these bits of information and put them in small pieces, you'll understand them more quickly. And as a friend of mine who was a master sergeant in Vietnam told me, he said, well, there's a saying in the Army, if it looks stupid but it works, it's not stupid. So there's a lot of ways to get the same things, and my hands are a different size than yours. Your reach may be different, so use what you've got, and don't worry about people telling you to break the rules. I've yet to meet the guy who invented the guitar that said it can only be played like this. Oh, really? Well, we have plenty of guitar players like Van Halen, Steve Vai, Joe Satriani, Andre Segovia, Paco de Lucia, Al Di Meola. They all play with their own different flair. And if you listen to them, did they do it wrong? Did they follow all the rules? I don't think so. So until next time, and the third lesson, practice, practice, and practice. And the old saying, practice makes perfect, no, that's not true. Perfect practice makes perfect. So go slow, get your technique right, and then speed will come naturally. Thanks again for your time. This is Brad Davis.